Love the intro music, by the way.
That was a beautiful
Song.
intro.
Yeah, by the way, hey? Kind of reminds us when we almost got married that one time.
Which time?
Hello and welcome to today's episode of The A-List, where I'm joined by the award-winning actor, Christopher Wardrop. Chris, first of all, thank you so much for coming in today and
Oh, this
joining me.
is terrific. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. Let's start with where was the beginning of acting for you?
Growing up in a somewhat strict religious home, I figured out pretty young that if I wanted to stay on everyone's good side, I had to behave certain ways. And I don't know if I'd call it acting, but it was definitely putting on a persona that was more acceptable to this community. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, of course. It's not until later and you reflect back, but I think that's where the ability to give the audience what they want, right?
Like, did you feel bad about yourself in these thoughts? Like when you're talking about people saying, don't act this way, or like
Oh yeah, yeah.
so
yeah.
you like struggled with that.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, there were things that I enjoyed, things that I was interested in, but was told, oh, those are bad things, So I had to stop being interested in them and feign interest in other things, you know what I mean? So,
Can you give me an example
uh, funny story. I'm not sure this is going to actually answer your question, but the one and only time that my parents threw me a surprise birthday party was in grade 6. And they invited all my friends. And when they showed up, everyone was there and it was a big surprise. I suddenly started panicking because when I spent time with this friend, I behaved in a way that that friend liked. And when I was with this person, I behaved differently because they were a different person. And so all these separate friends that I had, I was a little bit different with each person. And so now that they were all together, I didn't know how I was supposed to be because I didn't have a persona that pleased everybody, right? And the second thing that was frustrating was none of my friends liked each other. So it was just me like trying to keep the peace for the whole time, right? So and again, you don't really think about it while it's happening, but years later you look back and I just like, it's something that occurred to me that I sort of cater how I'm going to behave depending on who I'm with. And so it was interesting. And I mean, since being more mature and sophisticated, I have managed to, I think, be a more consistent person no matter what, right? And if some people don't like it, that's not my problem, that's theirs, right? But that was something I realized until later. Like back then, it was like, if you don't like me, I have to figure out a way to make you like me, right?
It's interesting to hear you say that because, I've known you for, over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really charming and endearing about you is your honesty. Like you're a very, very honest person, and
Or I'm a really good liar.
well, you are both. No, I don't. I haven't experienced you as a liar, and I think it's very commendable in anybody that knows you well enough. Probably draws inspiration or should draw inspiration on that because I've seen you do it in your professional life, in your personal life, and it's enviable. It's
Wow.
and I think that's likely part of what makes you a really, really good and strong actor is being able to tap into what honesty looks like and authenticity.
Well, and plus I've had years and years of practice of being different versions of myself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So anytime I'm cast in a play or a film or whatever, Actors are always themselves, plus or minus something, right? But the core is still there. So maybe that's part of what, I don't want to say makes me so good, but I've got years and years and years and years of practice of behaving uniquely, right, in different situations. So I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Sometimes, maybe we haven't taken the time to deconstruct how we got to a certain place, and that's why it's an interesting conversation. I've had the fortune of seeing a lot of your work. Let's go to one of the roles that you did win an award in. Actually, I want to touch on two. Both of these are from live theater. But one, you did the show Red, which was based on an actual person.
Yes, Mark Rothko.
Yeah. And his character is, can I use the word erratic? Like,
yeah, eccentric. I don't know. Yeah, erratic, probably.
Erratic. Yeah, I mean, there's large levels of bursts of emotion in the show.
Yes.
Where does that line up in terms of who you are? You said, that the actor shows up in every role. Right. Like, how did you relate to Mark Rothko?
Oh,
because he gets pretty ferocious.
Oh yeah,
in that show.
And again, most of my life, since about junior high, I've been tall. I've been big. I've been a big guy, and I've been aware of that. And I also was aware that if I relax my face completely, I look miserable, mean, angry, upset. So right from, like I say, about junior high, I was aware that I was big and that I looked mean. So I was always making a deliberate effort to keep my, smiling all the time and, not getting in anyone's way. And as I got older and I was, and more difficult situations came into my life, I had this in the back of my head, like, I'm threatening even when I'm not a threat. So I need to rein it in. I need to pull it back. I need to be gentle. I need to be quiet. I need to be, funny. I need to, lighten things up. And so I think there's a lot of situations where I might have lost my temper and then just never did. I just kept it in. I kept it down. I kept it cool. And so when I get a role like in Red, where I have to let it all out, I wonder if it's years of repressing that threatening behavior. Suddenly I can now let it out. And in a way it was, I think, probably very authentic because, I don't get to be a mean, angry guy in my real life.
Right.
Not to say I don't get angry in real life, I do, but I'm always aware that I need to be careful not to scare anybody that I'm angry with, because most of the time they're smaller, and women,
I like how you looked right at me when you said that. Like, yes, I am the woman in the relationship.
It's yeah. I don't know. It's it's always more fun to play a villain. Whether
sure.
It's always more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I enjoy doing that and just letting that out and screaming at my scene partner. It was so rewarding.
Well, you did a great job of it. Another one that you were awarded for, and you talk about playing different characters. You played a gamut of characters in the one show that was Woman in Black. Yeah. Was it a total of 9 characters?
I can't remember. It was something like that, 9 or 10. Yeah.
So what was the process for you there in terms of, because each character was very specific and very, very different. And I got to watch the evolution of that and that all come
Well,
to
first of all, I had a brilliant director.
We'll edit that part out.
Come on, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, that's part of my answer is you directing had such a clear vision for what each of these characters was supposed to be, down to how they walked, like, and not just an accent. It was, their physicality, their everything, right? You had such a clear vision for what each of those people were to be, and me being a natural people pleaser, like when you tell me I want this character to be like that, I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna do my best to do that, you know.
So within each one, you took direction very well and took it very seriously. What was your process in terms of the relatability to each one of these characters? Because again, they were very authentic in the portrayal of each one.
I don't know if I ever really put that much thought into it. I was just trying to do what my director wanted me to do, and what served the scene, right?
Yeah.
So my process, I mean, there was little things like, like, because each one had a different accent as well, different European accent, right? And so I would have like a sentence that I would say to myself before going into that character, and that sentence kind of got me into the accent, and it got me into that mindset. And I don't remember what any of the sentences were right now, but I found having that kind of anchor point, I could go from there. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Having a trigger or a hook.
Yeah.
So,
I usually
launching
I usually choose a song that I listen to, that I think my character, whatever play I'm in, that I think my character would relate to that song, and so I will pick that song, and then I listen to that before every performance, just to get me into the.
Do you remember what Mark's was?
I don't know.
What about more recently? Any role that you could think of?
When I was it Ricky Roma in Glen Rosa? Or Glengarry, Glen Ross. We're in Glen Rosa, right? Glengarry, Glen Ross. So for my character, he was a very, very confident, very strong salesman, right? He's selling land to strangers, really. And the song I picked for him was it's Peter Gabriel, Steam. Is that the song?
Yeah, hopefully we can play a little snippet of it.
I think it's called Steam, or Heat, or something like that. I don't know. It's got a cool hook, and it just connected me to that character in a way that I found very helpful.
Music or trigger words. For every actor, there's probably a different muse or a different device that can take them into there. So for any of you newer actors out there, or actors looking for inspiration, that's a good nod from what you're saying in terms of music can really be the bed or the launching point to getting the mental and the physical aligned to at least inspiring into character. I think
yeah. I mean, a good song will stir you up emotionally. You'll feel it physically in your body, right? Like, and then whatever cognitively you attach to that song is going to come up every time you play it, right? So I find it helps.
So we've covered the more serious roles that you've done. Certainly another thing that I appreciate about you and our relationship and what you bring to the table as a performer is your humor. And it's very original. And again, not to overuse the word, but it's very authentic. Did you grow up in a comedic family, or like where did your comedic bone come from?
Well, yeah, I mean, we laughed a lot, I think, as kids, and my parents, we made them laugh too, and I suppose humor was always kind of around. We liked funny movies, and
yeah, kind of. You're very natural in it, and I know for some people it's their environment, and for other people it's an anomaly within the community or where they grew up. Were you known as a funny person like growing up?
I don't know. I don't know if I was like, I don't think I was ever really like the class clown, but I did, going back to before what I was saying, how I wanted to always make sure everybody was happy, please everybody. You know, I think I found out I was able to make people laugh. And to this day, I still get in trouble sometimes with inappropriate humor, which in my head I think this is going to be really funny, and then I'll deliver it, and 9 out of 10 times it works, and then there's that one time where suddenly I'm in trouble, and I've been in trouble, but you know, you learn.
So I think talking about comedy, one of the mediums that you practice in is improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
So in that forum, like, are you ever afraid that you might say the wrong thing, or are you kind of 2 feet in and just going for it?
Well, as you know, there's a big difference from, you know, sitting at someone's kitchen table and you're just goofing around. Certain rules apply. You know, you can't say certain things, you know, just culturally unacceptable things. Society says this is not something you joke about, so you don't do that. But when you're when you're a comic on stage doing improv, even before you say anything, the audience is there, like, he's going to be funny. He's going to make me laugh.
Right.
You know, so you can get away with saying just the worst things. You know, because that environment, there's different rules, right? You can joke about inappropriate things when you're on stage. You know, and if the audience boos or whatever, you can turn that into something else to laugh about, right? Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very freeing doing improv type stuff, because you literally can, well, there's certain things you still can't say, of course. But that list is much shorter than when you're sitting at someone's table, you know, just chatting. Yeah.
Based on the rules of engagement in terms of an audience that has expectation that the humor and it's improvised, right? So
yeah. You can get away with a lot.
Right. So, you know, live performance isn't the only thing you do. You're also a film and television actor. Was there a transition, or have you always been interested in both? Have you always practiced at both, or?
Oh yeah, right from when I was very young, I always thought, like, being a movie star would just be the best, you know, being that guy, right? But that was, you know, I'm sure everybody dreams of being a famous movie star at some point in their life, and if not, I don't know why they wouldn't, but
I know Betty White did just before her 99th birthday.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I liked performing. I hadn't actually really sat myself down and thought, okay, well, what do I want to pursue as a performer? You know, because I did music, I did singing, I did some acting and, like, you know, school plays and stuff like that. And I always enjoyed all those things, but if I never actually sat down and thought, okay, what do I want to pursue? It wasn't until in my late 20s, early 30s that I actually started thinking, like, I would like to be an actor, I think. And that's when I stumbled across an ad. Someone was putting together an improv group, and I thought, oh, well, I don't know if I'm good at it, but maybe I'll go try out, right? And that's where I met you, actually, at that same group.
So that's when you put the first foot in?
That was the first step into being an actor, yeah.
Wow.
And then out of that group, you were gonna direct a play called Lend Me a Tenor, and you asked me to audition for that, and I got that part, and I absolutely fell in love with the theater and just kept going from there. And then, yeah, after some years of doing that, realizing I'm never going to get paid to do this, because, you know, community theater, it's all, you know, because you love doing it.
Right.
I'm kind of joking, right? I love live theater, and I don't ever want to not do it. But it is not a way to make a living, at least not in this type of setting. And then, And the second thing, the other thing about live theater that if I am going to say I don't like is the fact that you can't record it. You can't, you can't take a video of it. So in one sense, that makes it very magical because it only exists while you're performing it.
It's that ephemeral quality.
It is, yeah, and then and there's an end to it, and once it ends, it's gone forever. So it makes it very special when you're involved in it while it's happening. But I've got a a bunch of shows I've done, a bunch of plays I've been in, and I can't show my kids. I can't revisit them. Like they're just gone, and there's nothing. There's no way for me to revisit those magical moments that I loved, right?
So film gives you that?
Yeah, I can go, I can put the DVD in, I can watch it again, that will last forever, right? And I mean, it's a completely different animal too, whenever I'm on stage, I always think, wow, this is the best. I love this more than anything. And then I'll get cast in a film or something and I'll be in front of a camera and I'll be like, what was I thinking about that stage stuff? This is what I love, And then I'll get back on stage and I'm like, no, that was no, this is my favorite thing. I keep flipping with what my favorite thing is depending on what I'm doing, right? Because I just love doing all of that, right? Yeah, I just enjoy performing. I love putting on, somebody else's life and trying to give that some authenticity, right? That it's so rewarding, so fulfilling.
Well, I would say I experience you as a purist. I'm coining the term, or at least the definition of that term here, in that you don't call yourself a writer,
I'm not,
or a producer, a director. You've been very finite in your focus, and that's been about acting. You also have a level of discernment in terms of what projects you get involved with. That's
oh yes, I only agree to do a project when they ask me to do it. Yeah.
But I think you're very measured on quality. I can't think of something that you've been involved in that I would say, gosh, that was a mistake, or
oh, I can.
And maybe those exist, but I'm sure at the time getting involved, that wasn't the intention, or that wasn't the flag.
Well, sometimes you don't realize a show is going to suck until you're halfway through rehearsal process.
Sure, right? Or how about a film, before it's even edited, right? You just don't know.
Yeah.
What's been a highlight? Like, what's one of your favorite film projects you've done?
Oh, right now, I think the top of my list is I got to be in an episode of Resident Alien. So that's coming up. The next season 3 is coming up at the end of summer sometime. I'm in the 3rd episode. I don't have any lines. Like it was an actor role, but there's no lines. But it was the first time I'd been cast in something that I'm actually a fan of. Like I watched this show anyway. And then I found out I got the part and I was thrilled. And just getting to be just in that environment where you're, I'm hanging out with people that I've been watching on TV for a couple of years now, and I'm just hanging out with them and, and just seeing, having my mind blown a little bit, like, assuming that the bar and the cabin and, all the homes that the characters live in, I assumed that they were actual homes and stuff, And then I walk into this movie set or the studio, and it was just like, oh, all those structures are right here. None of them are outside. They're all in
magic, folks.
And it sounds stupid to say, well, because anyone watching this is going to be like, well, of course those are set pieces, But as a fan of movies and television for so long, I let myself get taken in when I'm watching something. Like I don't sit there with my critical mind going, oh, what's this? Or, oh, that's probably going to be the bad guy later. Like I just turn everything off and let let the movie happen, you know.
Man, you do.
And, and it's funny because my wife, who's very brilliant, you know, and I've managed to get her to stop saying her predictions out loud because she's always right, which is frustrating. But like I'm not in that mindset, right? I'm just letting this story wash over me, and all of a sudden my wife is gonna go like, you know what? That's probably an important detail for later. And of course it is, or you know, oh that guy, yeah, he's actually he's probably the good guy in secret, you know. And like, oh, of course he was. So I'm just you just keep those comments down, and you can tell me later you thought of them because yeah. So even stuff that's like completely obvious, I don't always catch it right away because I'm just letting the story come, right?
You and I have watched theater together, watched movies together, and for how particular you are in terms of the projects you pick to be a part of, and the way that you approach your work and how hard you work, on your actor roles, you really have a good suspension of belief when you're watching something, and it gives you this wide gamut of things that you'll take in that I think is I don't know, I see this excited little boy come out of you when you're taking in a show, and you should probably have a profit share in cinemas because you go in and you've been a strong supporter for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I love movies. I love people call it escapism, right? Life is hard, life can be frustrating. Life is difficult, I've got, coworkers, family members, situations that frustrate me. And I can't just turn those off. I can't just make them go away. They're going to be something that frustrates me. And when I turn a movie on, all for those 2 hours, that's all that exists. You know what I mean? And I truly love just letting myself go. It's funny, my wife complains sometimes, I love you, Leah, that in real life situations that are difficult, I almost never like lose my temper or cry or, because I have to deal with this, I have to fix this, I have to be here to listen to this person, I have to be supportive and strong, and this is a real thing that I have to deal with, right? And yet, watching TV or movies, like I cry constantly, like,
yeah.
And my wife got upset with me one day. She was like, how come you're crying at this fake thing, but in a real life situation you don't? And I had to think about it, and I realized, well, first of all, the movie, the lighting, the sound, the music, it's all designed to make me cry. Like, that's what they're going for. And they've put a lot of money and effort into making that happen, and they're good at it. Real life doesn't have a soundtrack that is, tugs on your heartstrings, And plus, I know this is fake. I know that this is just fiction. And maybe all those emotions that I don't let myself show in real life because I can't. I have to be, an adult. I have to be mature and take care of this. Now I can let that all out here. You know what I mean? I can. It's a release for me too. Yeah. And if I can ever be, like it's happened even in some of the plays I've done where, I've been able to make the audience angry, or I've been able to make them sad or laugh, and it's such a, this is going to sound a little arrogant maybe, but I've done it enough times now where I know how to do that. I know how to move the crowd, and if I pause just long enough before I say this next thing, or if I emphasize this word, I can steer them, and there's a real feeling of authority almost when you're performing on stage. I don't get that feeling when I'm in front of a camera because you don't have the audience there, you don't have that feedback, right? So I like that for different reasons. But when I'm on live theater, knowing that I can manipulate these people in a way that they will thank me for later, like, it's not bad, right? But that is such a. I don't experience that feeling of authority or strength in any other part of my life, which is why I don't think I can ever give this up. Yeah.
Well, me and the world beg you not to.
Stop it. You keep directing me, it'll be great.
Hey, any day, any time. Absolutely. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that have to do, that we kind of ask everybody in our episode. So one is the spill the tea. I'd love to hear a short story or a little anecdote of working with somebody that's either been a diva or something crazy that's happened on set or in theater or, yeah.
You want a bad story?
It could be. It could be.
There's only one person. No, sorry, that's not true. There's two people that I will refuse to share the stage with. Yes, I'm not going to use names.
We don't have to use names.
Because these are good people, right? You're just never going to get along with everyone. You're never going to connect with everyone, and you're going to clash with somebody for whatever reason. I don't even know if I want to go into specific details of any story because that might reveal who they are.
Maybe we'll talk off camera. Maybe I should ask you. Has there ever been something that happened that was incredible? Either on stage or in film that wasn't typical. That's probably a better ask.
Oh.
Or maybe it's the magic of something, like you mentioned, walking in and seeing these sets. And even though maybe a lot of people not. Yeah, okay.
So The Woman in Black. That was one of my favorite shows I've ever been in. And if you haven't seen the show, a lot of it is narrated. There's only two actors in the performance, and we're taking on different roles throughout. And at one point, I'm standing on the side of the stage, and I'm narrating the next, setting up the scene for what's about to happen. Now, this is a horror show. It's a ghost story, and it's very scary. And two stories about that. So I'm narrating the next bit, and I'm describing, you're in this haunted house, and there's this door that's always been locked that goes to this child's bedroom, but you don't know it's a child's bedroom yet. And so I'm describing this door, and the other actor, he goes over and he opens it, and it opens, and he goes in, and it's a child's bedroom. But right in between where the door opens and we reveal that it's a child's bedroom, there's a few seconds of just quiet. And I could hear a full-grown man in the audience going, I don't want to see, I don't want to see, I don't want to see. And it was so hard to not bust up. But it was such a tense moment, right? And I'll never forget that. And the other thing about that show too is the set having all those, what do you call it?
The legs?
Yeah, the legs. They're not walls because they weren't connected. And hanging on the back of all those legs was like chains and ropes and metal. And so at the intermission, remember there was an intermission, and when we came back, instead of just turning off the lights and back on so people know to sit down, some dark music started playing, and we're behind all these set pieces, and we're shaking the chains and we're rattling things. And it was so effective in like getting people just unsettled. So yeah, that was, I think, one of the most magical performances I've ever been a part of. It was brilliant, and people would scream. People, like I said, would talk. They'd be like, "Oh, what's going on?" It was so fun.
Yeah, one of those lightning in a bottle, but it's gone, never to be. Right, those that were there were there.
We can't show you clips.
No,
there's nothing.
No, you can watch the movie that Daniel Radcliffe did of it, and it's is quite a bit different. But
Quite a bit different, yeah.
so here's another one. Here's the plug-in portion of the episode. What do you have coming up that we can look forward to watching?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Well, I think one comes to mind that you're this big biker thug.
Oh,
I'm excited for the world to see.
well, I
you
didn't
in-
want to speak over,
no, go for it.
your schedules.
No. Nothing to do with mine.
You wrote and directed a short called Ninja Chronicles, right? Or Invincible.
That's the episode of that chronicle. Yeah, it is Ninja
So
Chronicles.
give it the proper name is.
Yeah, it is Ninja Chronicles : Invincible.
There it is.
But, yeah.
Yes, and I was.
Which Chris is in, which is the point of us bringing this up.
Well, and I was flattered and honored to have been included in that because, I always like trying to do something I've never done before, right? And so I got to play a character that I've never played before, who actually had a fight scene, which was amazing, and weeks of choreographing, and all for like a 30-second fight. And I remember too filming on that day. I had pads on for protection and stuff because I was getting punched in the chest, and he had to make some contact with me, but not full on, right? Well, hopefully it looks like it's full on, but even with the padding on and he's just barely touching me after like 5 or 6 takes, like I went home and I was all bruised and I'm like limping, I'm sore, I'm going to be 50 this summer. So, I mean, but I was so excited to get to be in a fight scene, and, for days afterwards, I'm like achy. And so I'm like, my God, this is how I feel after a fake fight. Like, I can't imagine being in a real one.
But it drop the face. Like,
but it was so much fun. And thank you again for including me in that. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can give you a little sneak peek of that here. We'll give you a little clip.
Ooh.
Insert clip, and should be coming along shortly. Listen, we're almost out of time, but I have to ask.
Yes.
There's an apocalypse, okay? And a meteorite comes down, hits the earth,
Right.
and wipes out every single movie ever made.
Oh my God.
Except for five that you've kept in your vault at home.
Oh.
What are the 5 movies that survive? You have 10 seconds. Cue the music, and
I think all the John Wick movies probably go into one category. Princess Bride. Lord of the Rings movies, I like those too. I'm terrible at this. Yeah. Oh, that was like 8 movies right there. Come on.
You don't have 2. What are the first 2 movies that you love that come to mind?
I'm going to think of them later.
Of course you will,
Yeah.
and you'll change it, and we'll edit it out and all of that. Give me 2 more.
2 more. God, I love so many movies.
First 2 that come to mind.
Well, that's the thing. My mind doesn't work like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're swirling, all of them, and I can't grab any of them. I'm panicking. I'm really nervous.
So
Can you just stop?
if this actually happens in the parallel universe where it does happen, I apologize on Christopher's behalf.
Yeah.
That you only have 3 movies. But technically, you have more than that. You have 7 because you have all 4 John Wicks, and then you have the 3 Lord of the Ring movies.
Princess Bride.
Plus Princess Bride. Classic one. Well, my friend, thank you so much for coming by. I look forward to doing a follow-up episode in the future where we chat about other projects we've done together. And happy petting.
Thank you, sir. Love you.